Today on Free Field Training, we're going to be discussing security duty pistols, an issue in the security industry that, as you can see, has come up many times and that causes some companies many problems for a lack of opportunities and options that security guards can use. And I'm also going to give you some of the solutions to that problem that you might not be thinking of right now as you're trying to decide what you or your company can use that fits the budget and the options that are available to you in your state. Now, I put this pistol front and center. This revolver is a Smith & Wesson 686, and I did a video featuring this many years ago called Revolvers as a Duty Weapon, and I still get some good comments on that video now and again. I'll put a little link up there to it. The crux of that video was that at the time that I did it, and you're talking 7-8 years ago now, this was an awesome option for companies and especially for individuals that were looking for a duty pistol because these were on the market. And they were on the market in a way that allowed you to get a competent pistol and also a very competent, although very well used, complete rig with a retention holster, spare speed loader pouches, and spare speed loaders on a belt, all for under $500. And at the time, that was a really, really good option. The argument that I made in that video is, among other things that were specific to revolvers for use as a defensive weapon, was that you could get this at the time because agencies were offloading them for about $450, like I said, with the holster and the belt and the whole 9 yards. You get a whole rig ready to go. And while it wasn't the state of the art at the time, it was a very competent setup. It was something that you could rely on actually working and actually being able to keep you safe at the standard of the late 80s or early 90s. Now, in the early 2000s, is that ideal? No. But if you're trying to get the best you can on a budget, the best bang for your buck, this was the way to go, especially when we looked at the other options that I saw people using as security duty weapons. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about Shieldbox. Shieldbox is the sponsor of today's video. It is a law enforcement, security, and other tactical persons subscription service. There's a link down below and coupon codes and all of that. If you use that, I make a little bit of money. It helps the channel out. We are live streaming this over on Instagram, and if you follow me over on Instagram, that's Tommy_FreeFieldTraining, and go to the live streams that I do and follow me, you get an opportunity to be part of the conversation. We're going to be taking comments and questions at the end of this about this topic that I'm going to answer live, but we're also going to be giving away a shield box full of all sorts of cool stuff. This month's shield box has both a knife and a flashlight and an armor's tool and a bunch of other cool things inside that people are going to really like. So follow me over on Instagram to be part of the conversation. Tommy_FreeFieldTraining. Also have an opportunity to win that prize when more of them come up. By the time you watch this on YouTube, someone will already have their shield box in hand. So the things that people generally buy when they go to the gun store and they buy something new and they're on a really tight budget as a security guard, and I know that this is going to ruffle some feathers, but it's the reality of it, is things like this. It's essentially junk. Sometimes it's a little better than junk. Oftentimes it's a lot worse than junk. But every time, the major issue that people have is not normally the gun, because if it's brand new and it's built in, the 2020s, it's probably going to be fairly reliable. It's with whatever caliber people choose, and then the holster that we're getting for it. You get little 22s, it's really hard to find 22 ammo that's any good, and oftentimes the ammunition that people have available to them that they're using is just whatever the local range gave them to try it with on the first day they bought the thing. Holster availability is a major problem. We've talked about it before, having to pick a holster, especially a duty holster, link up there. Picking a duty holster is really difficult when you have something that no one's making good duty holsters for. And these are examples of things that people buy, I've seen people using as duty weapons, and they end up with some cheap plastic whatever holster that'll hold anything, or like a nylon holster with a thumb snap type of thing. And that's not what you want in the instance, especially of as a single man posting, where you've got one person working security at whatever it is, whether that's the bank or the jewelry store or some facility or the night watchman or something. If so, you get into a scrap with somebody over whatever it is that you're doing, and you have one of these or one of these in a cheap nylon holster with just a thumb break, the chances of this getting taken away from you is pretty good, and the chances of it getting used on you is also pretty good. Now, I think we'd all agree that the security duty pistol is no good if it gets taken away from us and then used against us. I actually did a video many years ago that I never published, where I went around and I offered every security guard that I could find $5 for the bullet that they had as their A-game bullet, the one that was in the chamber ready to go, the one that was going to defend their life when the chips were down. And I never published that video because I didn't think anyone would believe me. It was that bad. I had people with like 38, 44 ammo in a 38 Special or 357 revolver that was like a lead round cast ball on the top. I had people with 22 ammo, just 22 ball ammo. I had people with 9mm ball. It was really common, just whatever target and range stuff that they had out there. We had one guy that I found that had a Taurus Judge with that ammo with the stack of discs in it, and he was working at a jewelry store. Just the most ridiculous stuff. And I said, no one is going to believe that anybody would be carrying a Taurus Judge with disc ammo in it. I forget, it's like PDX Defender or something like that at a jewelry store in a mall. But I found it was a real thing, and so I know that's a real problem out there. In the real world, there are people out there that are doing that, especially in high crime areas. You end up with a real need for armed security and not a lot of people that are super competent to do it. And one of the things that I'm trying to get through to people on this channel is some other gear options, some other training options that aren't just whatever you can cobble up at the local pawn shop. What is a much better option is this: a 40 caliber Glock pistol. 40 caliber Glock pistols are not the coolest thing out there. 40 caliber is not the best caliber out there. I won't get into caliber wars with all of you. I've got a whole video up there made many years ago, why cops use 40, which you can watch to find out why 40 was really popular for a long time with law enforcement. But the fact of the matter is, today the Glock 22, Glock 23, they are available everywhere for $250. And the holsters and belts and mag pouches for them also widely available on the used market. And just like I said for the 686 in 38 Special or 357, and the holster that were widely available for them many years ago, for under $500, you can get a pistol, a holster, and a belt easily. And you're going to be much better served with a professional grade pistol from a professional grade company that's used the world over by professionals carrying guns, and holsters made by professionals for professionals, than you are whatever cheap thing you're going to find that's brand new, and then the holster that goes with it and the belt that goes with it. You might buy something like this and spend $500 between the gun and a holster for it and a belt and mag pouches for it, and still have something that is far inferior to what was state-of-the-art 20 years ago. I would make the argument that just like the 686 in my prior video, today this is super expensive because you have to buy them new, and on the used market their values are going up. This is super cheap, specifically because it's not cool. But what is cool is not always right, and what is right is not always cool. If you are getting into the security industry today and you need a pistol and a holster and a belt to make sure you stay safe, don't buy something else and put it in a paddle holster on a belt you got at Walmart. Get one of these, get a real belt and a real holster that are used. Combine it all together, make sure they all fit. The Glock 22 will fit into Glock 17, Glock 19 holsters, as long as we're only talking the Gen 3 models that are widely available as law enforcement trade-ins. The new 40 caliber Gen 5 pistols do not fit into the old holsters. In fact, it's really hard to find holsters for the brand new Glock 22s, the Gen 5s. But the Gen 3s, they're out there. They're wide, like the holster availability is huge, and you can get one of these and get out there and be safer with this than you can with this. Ricky's 1204 says, my first armed job was as an armored car company. I bought a used Beretta 92 under $300 with a belt and a holster from a retired cop. Yeah, that's the crux of this video, is that whatever the law enforcement is getting rid of to convert to whatever the newest, greatest, and lightest thing is, that's probably what you want, right? Like the last generation of technology gets super cheap when everybody's trying to offload it to get whatever the newest generation of technology is. If you go 2 steps back, it all starts getting more expensive. Why do it? Why get the more expensive thing going 2 steps back? And why get the latest and greatest thing if you don't have the money for it and you're going to get in like economic trouble trying to spend $700 for a Glock 19 now? Insanity at the gun shops when you can get something that will work for you for $500 with a holster and a belt and all of it, right? Like you can get smoking deals, especially if you start hamming it up with the officers. Like you know the cops in your town, just put it out there. Like, hey, I'm starting armed. Do you know if anybody's getting rid of their old duty pistols? Someone will be like, whoa, hey, I got a Beretta 92 sitting in my shelf, or I got a Beretta 96, the 40 caliber Berettas. I got a 96 sitting in a drawer with a holster, man. You can have it. You'd be amazed. You'd be like, what do you want for it? How about $200? How about a case of beer, right? Like, you'd be amazed the deals that you can find if you just chat people up and start looking for them. Ricky's 1204 says, I bought 2 Glock 23s from my department when we went to SIG's 320 XC. I personally don't like the 320s. Now, 320s aren't my favorite either. But at the price that a Glock 22 or Glock 23 is at, like, you might as well stock up as far as I'm concerned. Like, well, what bad is having an extra Glock 23 going to be around if your department's getting rid of them? If my department had a whole slew of them, I would buy all of them. I'd be like, we're going to stockpile these because someday these are going to be worth a lot of money, right? Because they're going to stop producing them. The Gen 3 Glock 22s are worth nothing. Why would you produce them, right? It's going to be the same thing like this. Get a revolver. Oh, we're not going to produce these anymore, and then the prices go up. And then when they do start producing, the price is back to where it was, and the used one's value goes up. That Asian officer says, I carry a Glock 17 Gen 3. I'll be getting a Gen 5. The Safari ALS, SLS, and ALS, it'll still fit right. That's not guaranteed. Between the generations 3, 4, and 5 with Glock pistols, some of them do not fit on backward compatible in holsters. So if you have a holster for a Gen 3, it might not fit the Gen 5, depending on brand. You have to look up your SKU number for that brand and see if they're currently selling that same SKU number for the Gen 5s. Goggles Lagoon says, my department asked me to be on the riot team. Anything I should purchase? As usual, if your department will give it to you for free, don't go buying it on your own, because they might give you something that's great, right? And my classic example of that is guys are buying gas masks at work, like, oh, we might need gas masks, right? And they go get whatever gas mask they can get, and then the department gave us these Avon gas masks that are fantastic, right? Like, see what they're going to issue. If they're not issuing you anything, then I got suggestions. If they're going to issue you all their gear, take the gear that they issue, go to the training with it, and see how well it works for you before you go spending your own money on stuff. Ricky's 1204 says, my personal off-duty is a Gen 2 Glock 17 that was a police trade-in. I got it like 16 years ago. The Glock 17s, they'll run forever. They run forever. Now, I know guys that had them for 20, 25 years to still running. Glock 17s, every generation of them I've seen so far have just been the hardest wearing guns you could possibly get. If you're going to put high round counts through your pistol, just get whatever appropriate size 9mm Glock you want, and it's probably going to run essentially forever given the context of what it is, right? Like the little tiny ones will wear out faster than the big ones, but they're gonna run longer than any other little tiny 9mm pistol. And the Glock 17 is an eminently, it's like the Glock 21. It's an eminently great choice for just about every purpose except like hiding it in your pants because they're kind of big. Hey, thanks for watching Free Field Training on YouTube. And while you're here, why don't you check out some of these other goofy videos that I've made? Or you could subscribe or maybe go over to Patreon and see how you get your name put on the videos like these fine folks over here. All the links are, of course, down in the description. We'll see you guys next time.